So hey guys, welcome to another review. Today I'm actually going to be talking about a documentary series that you can stream right now for free through Crackle.com. Crackle.com is kind of like a free Netflix service. It's a service that literally all it needs is your first name, your last name, your date of birth, just to confirm that you're 18 or older for some of the R-rated films and R-rated content, and that's it. You don't even have to provide a credit card or anything. It's a very nice little helpful streaming service site that I've known about it for a while, but it wasn't until just recently where I'm about to review the docu-series I am going to review for you today that's exclusive to their service, and it's a nice little service out there in case you didn't know about it, in case you're getting bored with Netflix or with Disney Plus, or you kind of already streamed the really good stuff on HBO Max already. So just another nice little service out there that you don't even need a credit card for to enjoy their streaming service on. So in today's review, though, I am going to be reviewing a documentary series called Playing with Power, the Nintendo Story. And it is a 5-part documentary series about the history and the legacy of Nintendo, kind of their ups and downs as a company, how they started off as like making trading cards, going into toy line, going into video games, and how they ended up kind of as the company they are today with the Nintendo Switch. So all this stuff is covered over the course of Playing with Power, the Nintendo Story. They have celebrities show up like Nolan Bushnell from Atari, one of the co-founders of Atari, Tommy Tallarico from Judgment Day from G4 Tech TV and the Electric Playground, from those who remember those shows on G4. They have some internet personalities show up. I think the host of Black Nerd Comedy, I think his YouTube channel's name is. I think he shows up at one point in the docu-series. So quite a few people show up in this. I was very happy with Playing with Power. It's a nice little documentary series that really does kind of depict, the NES era of Nintendo, the Super Nintendo era of Nintendo, the Game Boy, the N64, kind of their fall from fame with the GameCube and to the Wii, and then the fall from fame again with the Wii U, but then the rise again of Nintendo with the Nintendo Switch and things like that. So there's a lot of different segments of the Nintendo's history that's covered in this docu-series, and I thought it was very well done for the most part. So let's go over some positives and negatives of what I really liked with Playing with Power, and some things about it that I thought could have used some improvement on. So for my positives and negatives of Playing with Power, it really does show just how wonderful and innovative Nintendo can be. They're probably one of my all-time favorite game companies. I just really love their products each and every time around. I've been playing video games since I was 4 years old, and my first video game was Super Mario Bros. 3 for the NES. So I've been with Nintendo since I was just a little tiny boy, and Super Mario Bros. 3 was kind of my introduction to video games. For those who really know me well in person, movies are kind of my number one thing in life, with video games kind of being my number two thing in life, with, Nintendo and Mario kind of being the top of my video game preferences and stuff like that. So this documentary meant a lot to me because, I'm a big movie person, so it was a documentary technically, and it was about video games, specifically a video game company that I really admire a lot. And they are obviously the home company to Mario, who's kind of their mascot, and so obviously he's a big part of their video game lineup. So the documentary really does show just how wonderful the company is and just how innovative they are, kind of how every time around when they make a video game system, they want it to be unique and different. They want the controls to be unique, whether it's the Wii incorporating the motion controls, or the DS having a touch screen, or the Switch, being able to be going from a console machine to a handheld system. They're always thinking of kind of the new next thing in their systems, and that's something I always admired about them. And as a result, I keep coming back as a consumer for them, and I just love their games. And so this documentary series, I thought, really depicts that really well, of all the things innovative that Nintendo keeps doing, even to this day as a video game company. And for the most part, this documentary series really does cover all eras of Nintendo. It does cover the NES, it covers the Super Nintendo. It even kind of talks to people who worked for Xbox or Microsoft in this case, and Sony with the PlayStation 2, and just kind of where they were at with the whole thing, kind of how they viewed Nintendo, how they viewed them both as competition, and kind of how they kept their heads in the game of how they're going to kind of, overtop Nintendo in sales, and how they're going to try to, kind of always push for their next product and things like that. So it really does cover all eras of Nintendo and their legacy, and I thought that they did all of this in a very wonderful job. And also the documentary covers some of Nintendo's lesser known history. So, like I said, I really didn't know that they were a trading card company back in the late 1800s. That's kind of how they started. They kind of started as, because I guess for some reason a lot of American cards were banned at one point in Japan. And so Nintendo was trying to find ways for people in Japan to kind of use playing cards and to be able to gamble and things like that. And so they made their own card lineup. They made the cards small enough that you could fit them in your pocket, and they found a way to kind of do it so that they don't have to do ace, king, jack, and queen, and all that stuff that's known in trading cards. They kind of found their own system so that people could get used to it, and it'd be kind of a universal system because I think they went with like tulips and violets and things like that, different kind of flowers. So it does cover lesser known things in history like that for the Nintendo company. I also didn't know that originally Nintendo and Sony were originally going to team up for a system. And then obviously that didn't work out. Sony kind of wanted to go their own path. Thus they started the PlayStation 1. And thus they eventually became a competition for Nintendo. But I really did not know that at one point in time they were going to team up because Nintendo was in the business of finding a way to get out of the cartridge business for their games and for their systems. And so they went to Sony first because Sony was known for making DVD players and things like that. Things weren't working out. Sony wanted to still be in the video game business and do their own thing. And that's eventually how the two of them eventually became competitors with each other. So kind of interesting. I didn't know that that's kind of how Sony started with video games. And so that was kind of interesting to learn that in this documentary series. There's also some great people that they interview here. They interview a lot of people that clearly know a lot about Nintendo, that have clearly been with the company or have known the company since their origin. They even have some people that actually still own some of those old trading cards from the late 1800s, or at least somehow got a hold of them. Some of these people also own some of those original Nintendo toys before they became a video game company. So they definitely interview the right people here. They definitely interview people that are big on the Nintendo company, that really know the company. They also kind of have a third-party perspective of these are some things they could have done differently over the years. Thus, if they did that, the GameCube probably would have been more successful. Thus, the Wii U could have been more successful and things like that. So it wasn't just, we got to celebrate Nintendo. Some of these people are really quite honest with me, like, this system really could have done this, or that system really could have done that, or the Super Nintendo could have done this to keep up with Sega a little bit more. And so they were really quite honest with their opinion. Obviously they have plenty of great things to say about Nintendo too, and several points of the documentary series. But it was kind of cool to see them being kind of honest, and be like, you know what, they probably should have done that to keep up with the PS2 more. They kind of should have done that to keep up with Sega a little bit better. They kind of should have done that to keep up with Microsoft and their Xbox systems. So kind of cool to see kind of true Nintendo fanatics also be kind of honest with how Nintendo could have better approached certain things over the course of their history. There's also a lot of cool archived Nintendo release footage. So you do get to kind of see the original reaction to the DS. You do get to see the original reaction to the Wii. You get to see the original reaction to the Wii U and all the stuff that happened at E3 and other Nintendo conventions and conference meetings and stuff like that. So it was cool to see all that. You also get to see kind of the original footage of people lining up in line like really early in the morning for the DS or for the Wii or for things that were clearly going to be big things at the time and big releases and systems and things like that. And obviously everybody wanted their own launch title game for the system and things like that. So it was cool to see old archive footage of old Nintendo release footage of things, of games and conferences and things like that, of really kind of show kind of the original reaction to some of their products over the years. For my negatives, though, of playing with Power, the Nintendo story, I think there could have used more celebrities. It is one of those first documentaries I've seen in a while where it's like, they probably could have used some more celebrities. They could have used someone like Josh Whedon, or they could have used someone like Edgar Wright, or somebody that clearly probably has played video games over the years. Another interesting person they probably could have got for this was Kevin Smith. I bet he would have had a lot to say about the video game industry and things like that. Just people that love video games over the years and that really kind of incorporated video games into their life, into their career, and things that they worked on over the years. So I thought, as far as celebrities go, yeah, they're there. We get Nolan Bushnell and Tommy Tallarico and all of them, and Wil Wheaton and all that stuff. But yeah, we could have used some more celebrities here. There's just some celebrities here where I just don't know enough about them, where I went to this documentary and be like, I kind of don't know who you are. So there's things like that where I feel like they could have benefited from, even though they had some great celebrities and some great people to interview here, they could have benefited from some more celebrities, I thought. There's also specifically in the first episode of this docu-series where they try to do a lot of documentary setup elements. You know how like when you watch a documentary, some documentaries like to show kind of how they're setting up a scene or how they're going to interview somebody, and you see them put on like their mic, and you see them sit next to that background so we can kind of show that while we're interviewing you and stuff like that. They do that a lot in the first episode, and it's actually kind of annoying. I get why they did it. I get why certain documentaries like to do that. For me, this time around, though, it felt more lazy than special. Normally, it's kind of a cool little nod and kind of a cool thing to kind of see a behind the scenes and certain stuff. This time around, though, it felt like they didn't have enough B-roll on certain moments, so they just kind of went with the whole, we'll see them put on the mic and things like that. It just felt more lazy than special to me, something that I thought really didn't work this time around, something I thought they really could have gone without this time. If you ever saw the documentary special on Netflix called High Score, unfortunately, a lot of the stuff covered here is covered in High Score already, specifically the stuff about Nintendo and about Nintendo versus Sega and things like that. Obviously, there's a lot of things here that aren't in that either, but like the trading card thing and the like the toy line and like the really really early Nintendo stuff isn't there yet. But High Score did cover quite a bit of this. Even though I thought Playing with Power did find their own path for the most part, certainly covered areas of Nintendo that weren't covered in High Score. A lot of this is covered in High Score though still. So I thought that part, either they were filming this at the same time High Score did or something like that, because some of the material here is covered in that too. And they both were pretty recently next to each other, so I thought Playing with Power could have found a way to found its own voice a little bit better. There's also a segment in this about how, quote unquote, how bad the GameCube was. Well, I guess just to give you a little example of this, for all these people in this documentary, like, oh, the GameCube was terrible, and who would want to own that, and things like that. It was something I went to my cousin's house to play, and things like that. So let me just give you a list of just how great some of their games were at the time. They had Luigi's Mansion, Super Smash Bros. Melee, Super Mario Sunshine, Super Monkey Ball, Beautiful Joe, Resident Evil, Legend of Zelda The Wind Waker, Animal Crossing, Metroid Prime, Metal Gear Solid Twin Snakes, and that's just stuff I came up on the top of my head after watching this documentary. It's just like, you guys didn't think of any of these great games while you were talking about that, and just destroying the GameCube while you either worked for Nintendo or claim that you're a fan of them. It's just like, yeah, there's just this segment about the GameCube in here where they're just destroying on it, and it's just like, you guys clearly didn't remember just how great some of the games were on that. Yeah, it was a step down from the N64, but you should have remembered just how great some of the games were. So for being a documentary about Nintendo, I thought that part was a little dishonest to me as a Nintendo fan, so I thought that part was a little unfair. But overall, I'm going to give Playing with Power, the Nintendo story, a 9 out of 10. I think it's a really great documentary series. There's things about it that could have been improved overall, and I really could have gone with all the hate on the GameCube for the most part. Definitely a much better system that they gave it credit for, but 9 out of 10 for me. I highly recommend seeing Playing with Power, and so if you download Crackle or give it a shot online on Crackle.com, I think Playing with Power is worth your time to watch this. 9 out of 10 for me.